Welcome to TFA Mysteries, the show where we attempt to answer the leftover questions from TFA. Today, we'll be discussing at what point in the film did the Force awaken? Snoke says,
"There's been an awakening."
Roughly 30 minutes in, but what event specifically coincides with the awakening of the wrong TFA. On TFA Mysteries Episode 1, I asked you what TFA mysteries I should solve next. What I'm gonna do today is go through those comments and provide answers to a handful of them. To get answers, I've had to dig into several old Transformers animated convention panels, featuring several members of the cast and crew. And I mean, really old.
I was wondering, what's the female Starscream clone's name?
Oh man, I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Would you be able to confirm a season 4 of Transformers animated?
I can't confirm or deny right now. We're supposed to. Hasbro's supposed to say something about it fairly soon.
Without further ado, let's solve some mysteries. These ones aren't really mysteries, they're mostly just questions, but they're interesting. Darth Revan asks, who were the new characters going to be in the 4th season? I remember reading somewhere that Rodimus and Red Alert were going to become recurring bots. My cousin's cat was named Revan, and I was the first person to correctly guess that his cat was named after a Star Wars character. Same with his daughter Mara. Revan died. 2 characters would have been introduced in the trial of Megatron. A news reporter called Uplink and an old Energon farmer named Tractor. Both of these characters were given designs by Eric Siebenaler in 2019. Eric Siebenaler being the chief product designer at Hasbro during the time of Transformers Animated. He has since left the company. In addition, there would have been 6 Minicons running Kaye, and eventually, potentially, wreaking havoc on Detroit in a later episode. A sketch of a pirate Bludgeon was made, but contrary to popular belief, this was mostly just done for fun and there were no concrete plans for Bludgeon to appear. Here's a clip of Derrick J. Wyatt, the lead character designer, affirming this.
I remember seeing a sketch of like Bludgeon. Was he going to be in the show at some point? Or ideas?
That was probably just more for fun. We had never talked about Bludgeon.
Season 4 would have seen the debut of Steam, a group of human steampunk technophobes who would come into conflict with Sumdac, the Autobots, and Soundwave. They date back to the original series production Bible in a draft from 2006. We know that Blackarachnia would have created an army of Predacons, although we don't know any of their specific identities. They possibly hadn't been figured out yet. We'll talk more about that later. Season 4 would have introduced more Constructicons and more Dinobots.
Also, were there any plans to further round out the Dinobots or the Constructicons?
Yes, for both. And then they would fight to the death.
We wanted to do Devastator first, and then finish the Dinobots and have them go to war.
Will we have seen any more Dinobots in Season 4?
Possibly. We didn't talk about that, but they made the Devastator, yeah. Oh, that's right.
We had plans to hopefully finally finish off the Constructicons and do Devastator. Yeah. And then finish doing the other Dinobots. I wanted to have 6 Dinobots total. So I wanted them to fight to the death.
So what would those Dinobots have been then?
Well, Sludge and the other Snarl, and then a Velociraptor type honorable, Dinobot.
Dinobot.
How many new Constructicons varies from interview to interview. They likely hadn't figured it out.
The idea was that Bulkhead was an unwilling part of Devastator, and that Dirtboss and the other 2 Constructicons, plus Bulkhead, made Devastator.
We didn't quite get that far working it out. There was, we're definitely going to add at least 2 more Constructicons, and then there was sort of a secondary element that was part of Devastator unwillingly.
While we're talking about characters, I want to clear up one final misconception before I move on. Skipjack. Skipjack was never going to be in the show at any point. He was just created as a joke, which I'll explain in a moment. He's a reference to Skipjack the random bulldozer from Revenge of the Fallen. He was a simple redeco of Erector, who was himself a joke character designed in 2011. When Derrick was giving those interviews about adding new Constructicons, the artwork of Erector didn't exist. And get this, neither did the concept of a Constructicon named Skipjack. The show ended in May of 2009, and Revenge of the Fallen came out in the summer of 2009. It's preposterous to think that an obscure character who didn't even exist yet would have been part of the Transformers Animated Season 4 plans. Back in 2009, this character was referred to as Rampage. It wasn't until the fandom started asking, why is Rampage yellow sometimes and red other times, that they decided to go with the working production title for Rampage, Skipjack, that was left in the credits, because that's how much care went into the movies. The character was named wrong in the credits. And it doesn't work to claim that the character is simply named Skipjack and not Rampage, because the name Rampage is used in the film. The TF Wiki page for Skipjack wasn't even created until September of 2010. This piece of artwork has been floating around, with many claiming it's from the Allspark Almanac. It is in fact not in the complete Allspark Almanac. You can tell it takes place out of universe because of the sticky note, which seems to be written to Derrick. All out of universe content in the Allspark Almanac has a yellow and black border around it. There's no border visible on this page. It doesn't come from the Almanac. This image is from issue 59 of the Transformers Collectors Club, page 3. From October of 2014. The joke is that Jim Sorenson, co-writer of the Almanac, is pitching his ideas to Derrick and Marty. Skipjack was cloned from a Rector. A Rector is a G1 Micromaster, which would mean Skipjack is only a few feet tall. Here's Jim Sorenson proposing that he becomes the entire lower half of Devastator. On page 13, Derrick points out that Skipjack is hardly large enough to be a toe. After the model went through some slight design revisions, Skipjack was thrown into the complete Allspark Almanac and was given a little bio to justify his existence. A lot of Transformers Animated fans mistook his bio for Season 4 plans. Dirt Boss was not going to take some Constructicon CNA to create a new character because the concept of CNA didn't exist until Transformers Prime. In December of 2019, Derrick didn't even remember who Skipjack was and tweeted that he would not have been a part of Devastator. Skipjack was simply a joke created by Jim Sorenson. He was never going to be in Transformers Animated, nor was he going to be a part of Devastator. I can't speak to Red Alert's presence in the planned story, but Hot Rod / Rodimus absolutely would have had an expanded role going forward, due to how impressed the team was with Judd Nelson's performance. Here is Marty Isenberg, the show's head writer and story editor, explaining a little bit of Rodimus's future roles.
Well, I will say that Rodimus's appearance in season 3 was really thought of as just a cameo, and then we actually, to our shock, got Judd Nelson to do the voice, and he just nailed it. And so there were plans to have him have more of a presence in season 4.
Would Rodimus' team have played a bigger role in season 4?
Well, yeah, we had plans for Rodimus. I think we were going to upgrade him to Elite Guard, and because his mission there with that team was part of his Elite Guard training to work in that command structure. So there definitely would have been more of him, and probably his team too.
I'm pretty sure he was in the Trial of Megatron story.
As shown in the outline for the Trial of Megatron released during TF Nation 2019, Rodimus would have returned in the Trial of Megatron Part 3. Rodimus is like, hey Megatron, you know how you have Sentinel kidnapped right now? Give him to me. And Megatron's like, no, make me, bitch. And Rodimus is like, okay, please. Megatron's like, turn off all your weapons of your fleet, and then I'll give you Sentinel. And Rodimus is like, okay, sounds good. I can't see how this could go wrong. And then Megatron says, Lugnut, I need a hand. Cuts off Lugnut's actual poke arm, straps it to Sentinel's forehead, and then shoots Sentinel out of a cannon, where he crashes into the fleet and blows them up. I didn't make that up. That's what would have happened. As for his future roles, we don't know where specifically Rodimus would have featured in the Season 4 outlines beyond this. It's been heavily speculated that Team Athenia would have arrived on Earth due to the existence of a cancelled Earth mode hotshot toy. Team Athenia arriving on Earth is possible, but still not confirmed, as Derrick J. Wyatt was very hesitant to provide details about the Earth Mode Blackout toy back in 2009.
In regard to Team Char, we know that Oil Slick gets an Earth Vehicle mode, but do the other characters get Earth modes as well?
Well, none of the well, you mean in the show?
Well, we know that the Blackout toy is coming,
right?
But we don't know if it's Cybertronian or if it's Pablo or something like
Earth
that.
mode. That's it.
Dedalian Arts, I don't know if I said that right, that's gonna be a recurring theme, asks why one-shot characters like Swindle and Oil Slick got toys, but significant characters like the Constructicons never got a single one. If I had to speculate, I would wager that they were waiting for all of the Constructicons to be introduced for the show before creating toys for all of them that combined into Devastator. However, my speculation is blatantly wrong. We have a pretty concrete answer from Eric Siebenaler.
Making a toy that, you know, we knew was going to be a $50, $60 toy was not something that they wanted to commit to at that time. But I wish they would have.
Like we were
Constructicons.
planning to do a combiner with the Constructicons.
Yeah.
And we always left room for it, but ultimately it just was going to be too expensive to do.
Also, fun fact, Derrick didn't show up to that panel until the last 30 seconds because he got the times confused.
There's Derrick. Hey! For the last 30 seconds. So the panel was at noon, not 1.
The panel is technically over. I want.
Look how embarrassed he is. I love him. So, our answer to this question is the same as that of 90% of Transformers animated shortcomings. Budgetary. They didn't think that the demand for the product would justify the production costs. That raises the question, were they right? I don't know. Speaking of Devastator, Epic Cogman has asked how the whole Devastator thing would have worked in Season 4. To answer that question, we first have to discuss how the Devastator thing would have worked in Season 2 and Season 3. Yeah, we missed out on Devastator 3 separate times. The Allspark Almanac lays this out clearly. Devastator was originally planned to be introduced in A Bridge Too Close Part 2. However, Hasbro wanted them to wait so that this Devastator didn't steal the spotlight from Revenge of the Fallen's iteration of the character.
Yeah, we never got to do Devastator because they ended up doing it in the second movie. So we were going to do that in Season 3. You can see us sort of setting it up in Three's a Crowd, and then we couldn't do anything with it. So
you guys put in the big wrecking balls?
No. Devastator was postponed. Three's a Crowd threw Dirt Boss into the mix, and Devastator was planned to be the main threat of Endgame Part 2. However, this was changed to be the Lugnut Supreme clones in order to simultaneously wrap up the Season 2 cloning storyline and the Season 3 Omega Supreme Activation Code storyline. Yeah, I think this was the right call. The Lugnut Supremes felt very out of left field to me, and the notion of Decepticon-controlled Omega Supreme felt repetitive for some reason. But imagine if the climactic ending of Optimus's arc was him building the courage to wield the Magnus Hammer and defy Ultra Magnus's orders about following his programming, only to go out and just fight against a handful of big drunk Republicans. Imagine if Prowl died to stop Devastator. Season 3 ends, and all the Decepticons are just still in Omega Supreme in space. They weren't brought up because Devastator was the finale. Now, how would Devastator have worked in Season 4? He'd been shelved multiple times, and it's a little hard to imagine him not debuting by this point. A pitched episode called Turf War would have showcased the Constructicons engaging in a turf war against the Decepticons for control of Detroit's Energon deposits, which would have sprouted out of the ground all over Detroit as a side effect of the Allsparks recreation, apparently. While the episode description doesn't explicitly mention Devastator, the photo is Devastator's head, drawn by Derrick J. Wyatt and colored by his collaborator Diamooch, or Josh Perez. So it's safe to assume Devastator would have appeared here. Side note, also, on these old Derrick J. Wyatt panels from 10 years ago, I found comments from Josh Perez. I don't believe he even knew Derrick back then because their first Twitter interaction was on May 26th, 2010. I had to scroll so far He was just a relatively new Transformers comic artist at that point. He was just a little baby fan, Josh Perez. Anyways, Bulkhead would have remained on Cybertron during the planned 4th season. So, would he have been a part of Devastator in Turf War? We don't know. The creators probably don't even know, because every idea was still in the pitch phase back then. There were never concrete plans for Devastator. In fact, every single detail we know about the planned 4th season was only just a pitch or an idea, and likely would have been radically different in the aired versions of the episodes as the story developed. That's something that doesn't get brought up enough. A lot of people look at the almanac and take it for face value. Those are all pitches. All of those ideas would have warped and changed over time. If a 4th season were to come out, it would not be identical to what we see in the almanac. We know of more planned 4th season episodes than were in the seasons of Transformers Animated. TF Cypher wants something mysterious. Well, I know a mystery. Why won't my Wii work? Every time I put in the disc, it just makes a weird noise and then I get an error message. I want to play Mario Galaxy 2, damn it!
We're counting down our picks for the top 10 things we wish science would figure out.
Okay, but actually, could someone help me? Kyle Jamerick wants to know why Blackarachnia was marketed as one of the main antagonists, only to rarely appear after season 1. That's a solid question. I can only speculate because I've personally never heard a formal answer. I think their plans simply changed as the story developed. I took a trip into the original production Bible of Transformers Animated circa 2006, back when the story was still in its infancy. For example, Thrill of the Hunt was about a Frankenstein lockdown coming to Earth to hunt the fastest thing on wheels, Hotshot, before having a run-in with his old war rival, Red Alert. Things were a bit different back then. Blackarachnia, from the beginning, was pitched as a lone wolf who had no loyalty to the Decepticons. Blackarachnia's role in season 1 was pretty firmly mapped out. She had an even amount of screen time to the rest of the Decepticons. But as season 2 and 3 developed, her storyline did not overlap with the rest of the cons even once. I think this was an instance of not wanting to include a character in an episode for no reason, which was something TFA excelled at given their limited voice budget. This worked in their favor because it made their episodes tighter. Blackarachnia only appeared when necessary, but she was necessary very few times due to her irrelevance to the Space Bridge and Omega Supreme storylines that dominated seasons 2 and 3. The creators all give different accounts of how season 4 would have played out, but one thing remains consistent across all of the comments we've heard. Season 4 would have reunited Blackarachnia with the Decepticons.
Another Blackarachnia question. Was she ever intended to join Megatron's team?
Briefly, yes. Well, she was going to rejoin Megatron's team briefly in season 4 before finally coming to the realization that she should be the boss herself.
Cretan? I don't know, something. Prime wants to know about the original intended storyline for Blackarachnia and her Predacons. The production Bible explicitly states that eventually Blackarachnia would have come to see her techno-organic side as a strength and create a techno-organic army to wipe out all Cybertronians. Believe it or not, that's exactly how things would have played out in season 4. An episode called What a Tangled Web We Weave would have reunited Blackarachnia with the Decepticons, featured flashbacks to how she joined them in the first place, making Blitzwing a triple changer in the process, and revealed her massive army of techno-organics. I've always felt that Blackarachnia beginning season 4 with an army of Predacons wasn't properly built up to or established. Where Predacon Rising ends, there is no indication of any of this happening. She still hates being techno-organic. Some people point to this speech as contrary evidence.
This is power. Power to destroy your enemies. The ultimate combination of cybernetic and organic.
But she was only saying that to trick Wasp into undergoing the mutation. The only reason she needed Wasp to undergo the mutation was...
Why did you do the same thing to Wasp?
Isn't it obvious? If I can change him back, then I can change myself!
In her last 10 minutes of appearances, she was still trying to change back. Maybe her saying this was an indication that she's starting to believe it?
Okay, I get it. It's bad, but it's not that bad, all right?
This comment from Derrick seems to imply that.
She then told them that it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. So I was just wondering if in the future we were going to start seeing her start to accept her again and start to use it.
I think so. I think that would have been a big part of her character arc. And when that moment happened and she accepted herself, it kind of wasn't going to be good for anybody. So, except for Blackarachnia, of course.
But I think you need a lot more context for that to be convincing as an impetus for her changed demeanor, which has been pretty set in stone for the first 3 seasons. We do know more about Blackarachnia's role in the 4th season than just this one episode description. We know that the planet Blackarachnia wound up on at the end of Predacon's Rising was not necessarily meant to be a plot point.
What would happen after her? Because she met the animals and all that at the end of the episode where she and Waspania were transported?
Honestly, it was really meant to be more of a gag than a serious plot point. So we never really gave it much thought. Did we pitch something for season 4 where we would go into the
I think
realm
I was
bring
one of the
her
people
back from the Beast realm?
I kept on referring it to, it's like, oh, she's in the Beast Wars world now.
Yeah.
And it was in the ether at the point, but we didn't agree on anything because we just never got there.
They didn't have any specific plans for this location. It may have returned, it may not have. Also, a lot of people think this is Africa, but guys, the skies are pink. The skies are not pink in Africa. At some point during season 4, after the trial of Megatron, Blackarachnia would have returned to Cybertron.
There's a little tease of a story that we had planned with Blackarachnia coming to Cybertron and kind of hijacking Vector Sigma or something and kind of building an army of ants.
A page in the Allspark Almanac alludes to this, showing Blackarachnia with a new Beast Wars inspired paint job and 2 Predacons named Inferno and Antagony. Those were designed for the Almanac. See, I trust the Allspark Almanac when it comes to production details, but a lot of the entries about the lore of the show were not run by Marty, Derrick, Eric, Matt, or Sam, or anyone else involved in the show's production. Derrick has been adamant that many things in the Almanac don't make sense for the TFA universe, despite their canon status, and I tend to value authorial intent. If Derrick says this isn't Hoist, then I don't consider it Hoist, regardless of what the Almanac and the wiki say. One more Beast Wars themed episode would have been called Truck vs. Monkey, which would have featured Optimus Prime going against a rogue Optimus Prime clone. This episode has not been mentioned in the Collectors Club magazine or the Almanac, but Derrick mentioned it on an old Formspring page back in 2009, and here's a clip of him talking about it at a convention panel.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to do Optimus Primal.
That we had a show we wanted to do where the title was Truck versus Monkey. So, there you go.
That, and then I definitely wanted to do an Optimus Primal story.
Would Blackarachnia have been redeemed? We have received mixed messages. The episode pitch for Megatron Must Be Destroyed states that Blackarachnia and her Predacons would have been a part of Optimus' slipstream in the Dinobots' campaign to defeat Marauder Megatron. This seems to imply something of a redemption arc for her, but Marty Isenberg, the story editor who presumably wrote this pitch, has also said that they had no plans to redeem or save her.
Would she have ever turned back to Elita 1, or no?
There weren't any plans to do it. I mean, certainly we were going in a more heroic direction for RC and getting her memories back and making her a more active character. And it might have been a direction to go. That's the sort of thing where if Hasbro came to us and said, you know, I think we can sell a lot of Elita 1 figures, we would have found a way to do it. Yeah, I mean, you wanted to believe, certainly Optimus Prime believed that she was redeemable, so he can't be wrong.
Now, Crichton Prime's question also asked about the Predacons, not just Blackarachnia. So let's talk about one last pitched episode before we wrap this up. A pitched episode set in the future would have seen a war between Autobots and Predacons for the future of Cybertron.
We were going to do a flash forward episode where you just get thrown into the future, and it's
Was Sari due for any more transformation or evolution?
I think we did talk a little bit about if we did that flash forward episode, maybe she was a little bit different. They were going to talk about it being post-Unicron Wars, and Galvatron was ruler of Cybertron. And I had this mental image in my head of Cybertron having like a third of it is gone, and he's sitting on a throne in the center of Cybertron, and he rules Cybertron at that point in the future, after the Unicron Wars. Which we would have skipped. All of that would have been skipped. We were just kind of go around the whole Unicron thing. His head probably would have been floating around Cybertron, but we didn't want to repeat the movie or try to outdo the movie.
I need to do my part in preventing misinformation once more. Unicron was not going to be a threat in Transformers Animated. Here's Derrick talking about that back in 2009 when the show was still running.
Are there any plans of putting Unicron in the series?
No. I don't want to do Unicron. I love Unicron, and because I love the 86 movie, but I don't think we could do Unicron as well as that movie did. I don't know if it could ever be done as well as that, so I don't think I would do it. Yeah. No, I don't think so.
That page in the Almanac where it talks about Cyclonus being from the future, those are just Easter eggs written by Jim Sorenson for the Almanac. Those were never in the discussion during Transformers Animated's production. That's gonna do it for this episode of TFA Mysteries. I will be coming back to a lot of the comments left on Part 1's video in TFA Mysteries Episode 3, so be sure to watch out for that. What TFA mysteries do you think I should solve next time? Please leave any comments below if you have more ideas. Be sure to stay warm and stay safe, everyone. I hope you're all doing okay as our society and planet backslides. We're definitely on the path to extinction, but I think let's have fun while it's happening.